15,000 students at this museum about his experiences during World War II. He's a Navy veteran. He served on a minesweeper in the South Pacific. Quite a job. After World War II was over, Cliff taught math and physical education at several American schools in Germany. He chose to go to Germany with his family, and also Italy and Japan as a teacher. Today he's going to show us some incredible, beautiful slides of his time of teaching in Germany in late 1950 and what, as Germany was recovering from World War II. They're pretty profound pictures that show the effects of World War II on that country. And so, Cliff, if you'd stand up, and I'm going to introduce you, and it's a pleasure to have him here, and I'm sure that he'll stick around afterwards too for questions. So let's welcome Cliff.
Thank you. I'm not a speaker, as somebody told you, or no. I usually have a lot of pictures because I've done a lot of things, and I'm in a bullpen, and they didn't have anybody else today, so they called me, and Barry here did a wonderful job of coming over my house and putting together a little spot. So my first question probably is, how many veterans from World War II here? In Germany, or in Europe? How many were in Europe? Okay, now we may see some of your work here. What I have is a series of pictures. As she said, I'm a school teacher. I went over to independent schools, American independent schools in '55, and these are in mid and late 50s. Okay, and you'll see some of the results that you accomplished in some of your flights over Europe. Okay, and then we go to the national line, we release some more damage, but that was really done by the Germans when you pushed them out of France back into Germany. They did that themselves so that the Americans would not use it against the Germans when they got to Germany. So, and then we have some nice shots near the end just for viewers. So I'm going to sit down here and go with these pictures. Hitler had two stations. He had one in Nuremberg, which was his party rally area where he did all of his propaganda. And this is his stadium. Give me a little minute now. I'm going to learn how to shoot a red dot up there. I don't see the red dot. There it is. All right here is where Hitler stood. You're going to see some pictures that I took over there a couple of years ago. And all of this part from where I'm putting this arrow, I'm not very good at this, you can tell. Not because well, anyway, when you see those things go up and down there and up high, all of that is gone. But this is a picture of Hitler now when he came up here. This station held about 50,000 people, and this is where also with his speeches he had all of his propaganda works. Now his other place was in, this is the same stadium now in those days. His other station was in Berlin, which we'll go to before too long. As soon as the Americans got in, the first thing they did was blow up the swastika, as you can see, and you can see a couple pictures on the side. Now this is what it looks like today, and you can see that the high part is gone, and of course it's overgrown. This is in Nuremberg now. And on the left here, which you can see was actually his parade grounds, is now the American Recreational Center for Nuremberg. They had a school there, and I was in Baumholder, Germany, and actually I coached a team that played football on the field. That's just off to the left. Okay? This is how Berlin was divided after World War II. You can notice that the Soviet section here is quite large, and then we have French, British, and the Americans. In order to go to this area, you had to have special permission, and of course there's a lot of security, and even after you got to the Soviet section, it was very restricted on where you could go or where you could not go. Just a couple of quick slides now. We're leaving the American sector. We're going into the Soviet sector. And you can see the sign, do not possess without proper papers. Down the road on the other side of that bridge, there's a station where the Russians were, and they would check all your papers, everything, and if you didn't have it, you made a U-turn. And notice all the car traffic. Now this is in about 56 in the summer. so you can see all the car traffic. This is a great sign. As soon as you get into Berlin, this is a sign you see, and for those of you that can't read German or Deutsch, it says up there we're up with the friendship for the Germans, and the second line says down with the German militarism. And of course it's propaganda, right? Okay. Just some pictures now. You can see in the background some pictures, and this were taken for personal experiences, so you see my wife now and see my children, and we did travel all over Europe, which is very, very small. Okay? This is actually the Reichstag building, and this is where his headquarters were when he was in Berlin. And you can see on the far side where it was bombed, and a little bit on the back side. Another picture in the background of the same building, and two little girls there. This is what a lot of areas look, and you can see that there's some contractors there cleaning up a little bit, but now remember, this is more than 10 years after the war, so they were still cleaning up. Church building. Yeah. Some new pilots did this.
Place to put in a bid for glass.
Huh? Yeah, there's your Brandenburg Gates now. Somehow, and it surprised me when, such as the Brandenburg Gate and King Chancellery in Paris, the Eiffel Tower in Munich, many of these things were saved somehow, but you can look on the side and you can see it was very close. Notice how the men walk in front of their wives. Lots of cars, Volkswagens and Mercedes. We're still in Berlin. This was in the 70s. I came from Italy back to Munich, and we went up there. And you can see there's a lot of buildings there, and I don't know, and I never inquired why they remained with that one bombed out church there, and I'm assuming that it's probably propaganda from the Germans to show you how they, how bad they were when they bombed Berlin. Same church. We're now entering the Russian cemetery. As you go in, this is on one side, you can see one of their guns there, and on the other side, you can see one of their tanks. Okay? And you can see the strength. This was very common also, in which anything they did it big, and they were going to demonstrate evidently their power or something. This is the entrance going to the cemetery. That happens to be my son sitting there, but it's very unusual to see soldiers react to people, because normally they were very stiff and they would just walk one and turn around and walk back. But this is the entrance to the cemetery. Okay, this is another example of the size. If you look at that statue there, my wife is about 5'6", you can see. And if you just put up there, she'd probably come up just above her knee. So it's probably a good 11, 12 feet tall. And this is a close-up from the front. Okay, now we're on the other side of that. The other pictures you were looking from the far side towards us. And this is where the bodies are born. And again, just look at the size of the whole structure. This is from the far end. Same as most of the American cemeteries over there, they have one building that's a memorial. And behind me right now, or where I'm taking this picture from, was a memorial for the Russians. You walk up steps, and inside of here they had pictures and indication of the war. But once again, you can just look at the size of the statue on top of it, just mammoth. This is the same one. You can see how this is a Russian, and he's holding a little child because he's president. And with his sword here, you can see that he's chopping up on one of these swastikas. So they were very highly into propaganda. This is a ceiling in that same building just behind the statue that you saw. Okay. This happens to be the 1936 Olympic Stadium, and as you know, the Americans did a fine job there. Jesse Owens, of course, this is from the outside of the stadium. I'm looking for that little button to push the red. This is the inside of the stadium, 1930s. Why don't you do it? You do it. Okay. Barry knows what we're going to do here. He came, spent a lot of time helping me, just picking out all kinds of pictures here, but he'll point and I'll tell. This is inside. We thought this was interesting because of the seats they're sitting in, etc., etc. But remember, this is 1936 now. Okay. All right. This is a list of all the winners in the 36 Olympics. In the next picture you'll see, of course, you knew Jesse Owens. He won both dashes there. Down near the bottom, he won another medal on the long jump. Okay. And of course, you also know that Jesse Owens, or Hitler, never wanted to recognize Jesse Owens. Okay. Maybe just for a little trivia there, you all know Jackie Robinson, who was the first colored person into professional baseball. Actually, he had a brother named Richard, who was second to Jesse Owens in both of those races. Okay. This is a memorial at Berlin Airlift. Remember, if you remember your history, that everything had to be flown in, and you can see in the background there's still a lot of damage, and even after the airlift. And as we get out now, going into just Germany, there's this here. This is for the Americans. It's to our heroic dead, a memorial to the United States military people that were killed in Europe. Yeah. Now we're into the National Line. You know that the National Line was built by the French people from probably 1929 to 1933, before the beginning of the war, knowing that this was going to happen. And it stretches from Austria all the way up to Luxembourg, okay? And there are 25 different stations, and each station was all underground. Some of it as deep as 85 feet, and actually it housed about 1,000 military people and some officers. So it was quite a construction, and you'll see here shortly that it was just bunkers-like, but they had turrets outside that they could operate from inside and rotate the guns to shoot. But this is mankind, and like I said a while ago, the damage actually was done, a lot of it by the Germans, when the Americans pushed them back into Germany. But you can see out the field there, you can see what it looked like. These were operated from inside of the building there, and these turrets would have guns and they could shoot. The only trouble is this is now facing Germany. So we're looking from France to Germany. And the one on the right there, that one would go up and down, and they would pick it up and put the guns on and shoot. The other two were actually stationary, but they operated from underground. Now this is Rommel, and of course, the story of Rommel is that he was one of the generals that was kind of dealing with the fact that they were unhappy with the war going and maybe even kill Hitler. And when Hitler found out, he brought him in and told him that, tell you what we're going to do, we're going to kill you and your family unless you want to say that it was just an accident, that you were killed by an accident, and we'll save your family. So this is a place there, it says that this is where he went up and drank his poison and died. Okay? And over there is very common where the churches have their own cemeteries. And this is a church that, in the community that he lived in, and you can see the cemeteries. And now we're going to show you his. And, where the crosses are, that's where he is buried. And this picture was taken recently, or a couple of years ago. And you can see that tombstone down there on the right is his wife, who died in 1971. So she was buried right next to General Rommel. And now we're entering Dachau. You all know about Dachau, and that sign up there says that work makes free. And I guess there was indication to all the people that came in that if they worked, they would probably be free, but of course it's false. And this is a statue that was right near the gate as you came in, and you couldn't look at that statue without feeling for those people. And it just merely states on there that this is a memorial to the living to remind them of what happened. And I was talking to a gentleman here, this is a statue, who had seen the statue, and I brought some junior high students over there a few years ago, and he said when they were in Dachau, he says you couldn't hear them, they were just all just so quiet and conservative and concerned about Dachau, and that's what it was, as you know. And this is one of the barracks where they would put them in. They would have double bunks. They'd have about 3 people laying next to each other on one bunk, and this is just what it was, a row and row. So much for the old. This is what Berlin looks like today, few sections. But it's grown up, modernized, and of course, as you know, a lot of this is due to the Marshall Plan, which we helped, plus the economy we brought over there with all the Americans that spent time in Germany after the war. So that's the end of Berlin. Yeah. Compete with any city.
Thank you, Cliff. That was very interesting.
Any quick questions?
Questions for anyone?
Any of you people want to comment? You made some of that damage? On these pilots we hear about all the time. I was a Navy man myself. Yeah?
Was that Berlin, the last picture?
Yes,
Okay.
modern Berlin, that's today. Right? About the last 4 or 5.
Did you get to Verdun in France?
Yes.
The question was, did you get to Verdun in France?
Great. My wife was born there.
Yeah. How many of you have been back to areas where you fought during whatever war you were involved in? Anybody? Yeah. Where did you go back?
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
Oh, boy.
So that must have been quite an experience. Has it recovered okay?
Oh, yeah. I was there just 2 years ago on a cruise, not a Navy.
Not a Navy cruise? Really? Is there any other kind? No. Yeah.
I don't want to go back.
We pulled into
They might keep me this time.
and obviously it's much different than it was in 1945.
Pretty touristy now?
Yeah, I would say so. They have a lot of pictures of World War II. One of the tours that we took on the cruise was supposedly the quote-unquote battlefields of Okinawa, but all they did was take us to a couple of small museums and showed us pictures. So I didn't see any of the actual landing places. I was on landing craft Okinawa, and I didn't see any of that area at all.
Who else has gone back? Yes.
My father was stationed on Okinawa in 1947. He actually had been in the European theater during the war, and actually was one of the officers that was held as the American forces went through Dachau. He was told to stay there and to help with whatever needed to be done. As you might imagine, there were 32,000 inmates there. And their request was very simple. They wanted to go home. And of course, these people were scheduled to die. So there was no home. Now, in 1957, after Okinawa, he was port officer at Naha, by the way. And then was there again after Korea as the port officer again. And then I got to go to Okinawa with Strategic Air Command with the tankers when we were doing ArcLight. So I got to see Okinawa again. But back to Dachau. You probably can't imagine, I can't imagine, the overwhelming feeling he must have had there, because they didn't know Dachau was there. And the Germans had all left. And most of these guys could hardly take, 10 steps, let alone go home. Some of the most horrific stories there are of these inmates that were in these were them trying to go home, especially those from Auschwitz, and having to navigate through the Russians. But I heard my father talk about Dachau for 5 minutes to another Army officer, and that was it. And so most of what I gleaned from that, other than what I went online to find out, was that he was there to, they sort of set up a tent city to, for facilities for the doctors and the food and everything that needed to come into there, and even latrines and things like that. And the last thing I remember him saying is he just wanted the hell out of there. Not because he didn't want to help them, it was just so overwhelming. And he was glad that these other people that could actually take care of them came in and helped them. So we went back in 1957 to Europe. He was stationed in Metz, which is right on the Maginot Line. And I have a little story about that, but I won't tell it here. And we took a couple of trips to places where they had set up their headquarters for the 42nd Division. He was in artillery, and they would usually take over the mayor's home in the towns, and usually without any hesitation they would turn it over to the Americans after they had been, had their dealings with the Germans. And that was interesting to see that. But the one place that he did not want to go was Dachau. So we went through Munich and Berchtesgaden and saw the beautiful, went up to Hitler's crow's nest. Anyway, he could tell it a heck of a lot better than I can, but that would just tell you something about what we went
Going
through.
back after war is hit. Anybody ever go back to Vietnam? Okay, well, Cliff, thank you for going back, and thank you for taking such awesome pictures and sharing those with us, so that we can see what it was like then and what it's like now. So thank you. Okay, I just wanted to let you all know that the very first of the 24 is in my hand. And I'm really serious. I would like for 23 more of you. Heather's sitting right back there in her gorgeous dress, and she has all the fill-out form. It only takes you a second. Lots of pencils, like when you were in the 4th grade. So please fill one out with your name and phone number and address, and we will call you and get you scheduled, okay? If you are not sure about whether this is something you want to do, please go on our website. We have about, I think, 40 or 45 on our website. You can watch them to see what it's like. You can also read the book that I showed you, because that also tells you what these interviews are like. So, and you're always welcome to see the interviewing room. It's down here. It's a soundproof room. It's just very comfortable and wonderful. So, 23 more. The door's locked. So as soon as I have 24 of these in my hand, then you guys can leave. Okay? Seriously, yes.
We'll open the VHP room if folks want to go take a look.
Yeah, we'll unlock the VHP room. It's right down, go down the stairs and to the left. Does it sound like I'm serious about this? I am dead serious. Thank you. Yes, Chuck.